Hello and welcome to Charity's Treasures. So today's category is missionary messages, but also combined with Come Follow Me. I am going to talk about a dream I had last week, but I'm going to give you a little bit of background on some things. So I had this dream last week, and then I was reading Come Follow Me starting on Monday. And this week's Come Follow Me made me think of this dream. And I wasn't going to share this dream because, so first of all, I write these books, okay? At the end of 2019, towards the end of the year, I had this dream. And in this dream, I was in this world, right? I was in this world. And it was wonderful. It was amazing, right? This world that I was in. And I didn't understand anything about it at first, but it was really fascinating. And in this dream, the people that I was working with, some of them were in the dream. And then I kept dreaming of this place the next month or two. And so I was like, okay. The funny thing is this dream was correlating with my current life at the time. So it was like I was going in and out of real life and then this dream, right? And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to start writing this dream down. I'm going to start writing this information down and maybe make it into like a book, right? I was like, this is really cool stuff that I'm dreaming about. And that's what I did. I started writing a book. So at the beginning of 2020, I started writing all these things down. And I kept dreaming. Like the first 3 or 4 months, I kept dreaming about it. So the first 3 to 4 months of 2020, I was just writing, right? I wrote 4 books in about 3 to 4 months, and I just couldn't stop writing. Like I was having these dreams, and I just could not stop writing because it was so fascinating. Like I'm thinking, wow, this is amazing. And so that's kind of this dream that I had last week is a dream that I would include in my book. It's 8 books. I wrote the first 4, the first part of 2020, and then it kind of tapered off a little bit and I wasn't dreaming as much, but I would still have the dreams. And when I would have the dreams, I'd write them down and I would continue the story. So right now I'm in the 8th book. And that's one of the things I wanted to get published this year was the first book. But the first 6 months of this year, I got multiple sicknesses. I broke my rib, and pretty much 6 months was lost on all my projects and goals that I had wanted to achieve in the year 2025. So that's a little bit of pretext. And like I said, I would normally not share this dream because I want to put it in my book and I want people to read my book. And so I don't want to give all the material away before I publish the books. Okay. So, I have talked about spirits before, and, you can go back on my episode on angels. I think that's what it was called. I didn't have time to go look at it, but if you go look, I think it was about a year ago. Anyways, I talked about angels and what angels were and things like that. So if you want to go try to find that, you can go look for that. And so that's what this dream is basically about, right? And I'm not going to interpret the dream because that's for my own interpretation and for my own story. But I'm going to talk about angels today and maybe interpret the dream just a little tiny bit. But basically, when I was reading Come Follow Me on Monday, I was like, oh, wow. And Heavenly Father kept putting it in my brain, Charity, share the dream and share the scriptures. So I was like, okay, I don't know if I really want to, but I'm going to. Okay, so let's see. When I dream all the time. Like, I think God created me to be a dreamer or something because I have wonderful dreams. Like this book that I'm writing, I look back on what I've written and I think, oh, what a blessing God it is for God to trust me with this material, because I look back on it and I think, how did I even write it? Like God had to be his hand in it, because I could not write this by myself. It's obviously spiritual. These books are talking about God. It's basically about my true life and true dreams. So it's creative nonfiction, and it every time I dream, it coincides with my real life. So it's easy to write the books. And the things I dream are just like magical. So when I go back and read what I've written, it's just like, wow, this is pretty amazing. Because basically what's happening is I'm building a world, and God is showing me how to build a world, which I'm not going to talk about that much today, but there's a whole other topic about other worlds, right? So when I dream of people, I dream of my ancestors, right? Or I dream, like I've had dreams of my kids before they were born. So I dream of my grandma who has died. I dream of other people who have died in my life. I've talked about dreaming of Scott, and about Jet, my nephew. So I've had dreams of my children. I had a dream of Karamia before she was born, this little cute little girl, about 2 to 3 years old, and she had darker hair, a little bit darker hair, not black, and then she had green eyes, which was funny. When she was born, she had blue eyes, and I was like, oh, well, this must not be her. But then when she got older, her eyes turned green, which happens with babies. We know a lot of babies' eyes are blue and then they turn green. So I knew it was her when she got a little older. And I've dreamt of Caden. I've dreamt of Isaac. I've never dreamt of Emma, but I think that was because I got pregnant almost immediately after I had Karamia, and they were really close apart, so I didn't even have time to dream of her. But I dreamt of Isaac when he was like a year old, and when he was born, I knew that was him. And I didn't dream of Caden necessarily, but I had an experience where I saw him. I'm not going to go into that experience, but anyways. So this book that I'm writing, it's who's in the books. My family, my friends, people I've associated with through the years. And so just thought I'd add that in. But also, like when I dreamt of my children, when I dreamt of my ancestors, I dream of them having characteristics, right? I recognize them because of their eyes, their hair, their stature, just things like that. When I see my grandma, sometimes I see her as a young person, sometimes I see her as an older person when I dream, but I can recognize her because of her features. So that'll be important in a little bit. And what I would like to read a little bit right now is the sections 129 in the Doctrine and Covenants and a little bit of 130. And this pertains to the dream. And so it's important that you understand what these scriptures say as I talk about the dream, and hopefully you'll be able to connect to how I felt in the dream. For some reason, Heavenly Father must think that someone needs to hear this, so I'm going to share it. So section 129 says this. The heading says, Instructions given by Joseph Smith the prophet at Nauvoo, Illinois, February 9th, 1843, making known 3 grand keys by which the correct nature of ministering angels and spirits may be distinguished, which means he's going to tell us how we can tell if a spirit or angel is from God. So I'm going to, there we go. Okay, so it says, there are both resurrected and spirit bodies in heaven. Keys are given whereby messengers from beyond the veil may be identified. There are 2 kinds of beings in heaven, namely angels, who are resurrected personages having bodies of flesh and bones. For instance, Jesus said, Handle me and see, for a spirit hath not flesh and bones as ye see me have. Secondly, the spirits of just men made perfect, they who are not resurrected but inherit the same glory. When a messenger comes saying he has a message from God, like if someone was to come from the other worlds or wherever angels reside, and he has a message for you, we are told to offer him your hand and request for him to shake hands with you. If he be an angel, he will do so, and you will feel his hand. If he be the spirit of a just man made perfect, he will come in his glory, for that is the only way he can appear. Ask him to shake hands with you, but he will not move, because it is contrary to the order of heaven for a just man to deceive. But he will still deliver his message. If it be the devil, as an angel of light, when you ask him to shake hands with you, if you ask him to shake hands, he will offer his hand, and you will not feel anything. Therefore, you will be detected that it is the devil. These are 3 grand keys whereby you may know whether an administration is from God. So, we grow into our spirit, right? Our spirit doesn't grow into us. Our spirit already has information from the preexistence. In the preexistence, or wherever the spirit is, in the preexistence, we weren't baby spirits. When God created our spirits, he created our spirits fully grown. So that is important. Okay, and section 130, I'm just going to read a few of the verses from 130. I answer, yes, but there are no angels who minister to this earth, but those who do belong or have belonged to it. The angels do not reside on a planet like this earth, but they reside in the presence of God on a globe like sea of glass and fire. Ooh, that sounds wonderful, doesn't it? Where all things for their glory are manifest, past, present, and future. That's important to remember. And are conditionally before the Lord. Everything is before the Lord. He sees all. The place where God resides is a great and Thummim. This earth, in its sanctified and immortal state, will be made like unto crystal, and will be an and Thummim to the inhabitants who dwell thereon. And I'm not going to get into what an and Thummim means. That'd take too long, but it's fascinating. Maybe sometime I will. Whereby all things pertaining to an inferior kingdom, or all kingdoms of a lower order, will be manifest to those who dwell on it, and this earth will be Christ's. Okay, so think about all of those things that I just said. And you can go to Doctrine and Covenants 129 and 130 and read it yourselves. So an important thing to remember is when God created our spirits and we lived in the pre-existence, we were fully grown. In the pre-existence, we weren't baby spirits when God created our spirits. He created our spirits as fully grown. When our spirits enter into our bodies, when a woman gets pregnant, that spirit is a fully grown spirit, which is living in a child, right? Just because our mortal frame is a child does not mean that our spirit is a child, right? It is kind of like our mortal frame must grow into our spirit, which, if you think about it, it makes sense, right? So interesting. This is why I'm so against abortion. Part of the reason, well, I'm against it anyways, but in my book series that I'm writing, I actually include a dream in there where I had a dream of being born, of coming from the pre-existence, being in my mother's womb and being born. It was a fantastic dream. Like in the moment when I was dreaming, because when I dream, it's like I'm literally in the dream. And sometimes it's like one of the, what do they call it, lucid dreams, where you can actually maneuver through the dream because it's like you're almost awake in the dream. So anyways, it was great. That's how I know that our spirits enter our bodies. That's not doctrine, but from my experience in this dream, I know that the spirit, as soon as you're conceived, it enters into that body. Okay, so our spirits know things, right? The closer we get to God on this earth by following his commandments and being obedient and learning about him, reading the scriptures and stuff, the more we can tap into our spirit that is in us, right? Because if we're not doing anything to get closer to God, we're never gonna know what our spirit knows. But the closer we get to God, the more we're going to know what our spirit knows, and the better we're going to be able to navigate our time here on earth, right? So it is important to get to know God so you can get to know the spirit that is inside of you, which is fully grown and can tell you things, right? Whether it be through dreams or whatever. Okay, so God is one eternal round, right? And so is his plan. And I believe we can see our future selves because obviously when we get close to God, he sees everything and he might want to show us. So he might show us things from the past, things from the future, letting us know in the present things that he sees, one eternal round. Okay, so this is the dream. I'm going to tell you this dream. And so I was in this house in the dream, and I was with another woman, and she kind of reminded me of myself, right? She acted older and kind of talked older, or talked more maturely, but she looked really young. Her actions and her looks were kind of confusing to me at first. I could not tell how old she was. She was helping me find someone in this house. At first, I thought it was an intruder, and I was looking for someone who got into the house that wasn't supposed to be there. And so I thought, I need to find out who this intruder was. But as I hung out with the woman, she indicated to me that it wasn't an intruder, and that I should not be afraid when I find this person in the house. The walls in the rooms of this house were covered with mirrors. And this is important in my books because there's a lot of talk about mirrors in the book, which also deals with a lot of the temple. But I realized what these mirrors represent: the past, the present, and the future. And they were representing two perspectives, right? So the first perspective of the past, present, and future was pre-existence, earth life, and after we die, right? And the second perspective is my past life on earth, my present right now, where I am, and my future life on earth. So one eternal round, right? I love that, one eternal round. I'm trying to study a little bit more about that, but it's interesting. So there was these two perspectives as I was surrounded by these mirrors, right? The woman who was giving me instruction, I realized, was me from the future and the past, and I was in the present. Her voice was very mature, but she looked young. I feel like this is a combination of myself in the present. And that is why she presented herself this way in the mirrors, because basically she was in the mirrors. I looked in every room, it seemed, for this person. And then I noticed there was a bathroom. And I did not look in this bathroom. At least I thought it was a bathroom at first. So I tried to open up the door to the bathroom. I was opening up the door, and I could tell that someone was in front of the door, and so that's why I was having a hard time opening it. So I pushed a little harder, and I ended up going into this room. When I was in the room, one thing I noticed that there were no mirrors, and it was dark. The other parts of the house weren't dark. They weren't totally lit up, but they weren't dark either. So, even though it was dark in this room, there was something lighting up the room, right? And so I turned after getting through the door, and I looked directly to where the light was coming from. And I recognized it right away as a spirit. And this spirit, I've never dreamt of a spirit like this before. It was clear, like clear crystal prisms, like diamonds that shone, right, when light was upon it. And I don't know where the light was coming from. It had to be coming from inside the spirit because there was no light in the room. So, and it reminded me of, when you shine a light and then there's all these colors of the rainbow, which is really important because in my book, I include the colors of the rainbow. That's a major theme of my book. Okay. So I saw this spectacular spirit. It was amazing. Like, I just wish everyone could have been there. And the immediate thought that came to my mind was section 129 of the Doctrine and Covenants, and which I just read to you, and how it talks about we can identify if a spirit is from God. And so I thought, well, which was really weird. In the dream, I was thinking, oh, I should test if this spirit is from God. Okay. Now, I talked about specific features of spirits, like when I dream of my kids or my ancestors and things like that, and how I could see their characteristics, their physical characteristics. But I could not see any features in the spirit because it was just like diamonds, like this spirit was just made of diamonds. And so I didn't see any characteristics, so I couldn't really tell, recognize like a face or something like that, or color of eyes or anything. So I had this specific feeling after I was thinking about Doctrine and Covenants, to touch the spirit and see if I could feel the spirit's touch, to see if it was a spirit from God. So I reached out my hands and I touched the spirit's hands and placed them in my hands. And as soon as I did so, I could feel the spirit's touch. And as soon as I did, I could see that he was a man, or feel that he was a man. As I was holding his hands in mine, I felt peace. I felt God. I felt love. It was just, I wish everyone could have felt the same thing. But I just can't really describe how much joy I felt as I was holding the spirit's hands and realizing that it was a spirit of God. Okay, I knew obviously now that this was a good spirit. The spirit did not speak to me, and I didn't really speak to him, but we were communicating somehow. And I understood that he wanted me to bring him out of this room. And so that's what I did. I kept my hands in his, and as we were doing this, I could feel him kind of saying or communicating with me that if I did not bring him out of this room, he would be stuck there. Okay, so as I was thinking about this room, as we were in this room, I realized that it wasn't a bathroom. I was thinking it was a bathroom because it obviously was a place where you get cleansed and clean. And this was, I guess, kind of a cleansing room. And then I thought that it more reminded me of the anointing room in the temple. If you haven't been to the temple, you don't know what that is, but you can look online and find out what that is. A place we get cleansed and nourished before we go through endowment. So this is a place in the temple that we get cleansed and anointed, not nourished, and anointed before we go to the endowment. And it's called an initiatory. So this is what this room reminded me of. As I was coming out of the room with the man, I was feeling so much joy as the spirit was taking on flesh and bones, right? How amazing. Why God lets me have these dreams, I don't know, but it is amazing. So I have his hands, we're coming out of the room, and as soon as we get past the doorway, right? When he starts coming past the doorway, I see flesh and bones covering this spirit. It's wild, right? And so crazy. Okay. And as this was happening, I was amazed. I was just this feeling of just extreme joy and just fascination, really. So he was so I was feeling so much joy. And as I was halfway through the door with this man, I could also see the devil. The devil was waiting behind us. He was anxiously waiting for me to bring the man through the door. He wanted to destroy the man after I brought him out of the door. He wanted to break the man, not just mentally and spiritually, but also physically. I could see his thoughts. In that moment, I could see all of the destruction he wanted to do to this man. And it was awful. Just as much as I was feeling so much joy, what the devil was thinking was awful. So I could see how he was calculating his next move in his mind. As soon as the man was going to be through the door, he was already preparing and planning to destroy this man. So I understood that the devil, in that moment, I understood it's okay, Charity. Keep bringing the man through the door because the devil really does not have any power to carry through any of his thoughts, because I knew that this man would be protected by God and God would be with the man and that this man would be like God. So I thought that was interesting. So I continued to bring him through the door and I slowly walked him out of this cleansing room or anointing room. And we were connected and I knew that I should not let go of him. This is why I was acting in slow motion. It took a while for me to bring him out of the room because I knew I needed to keep this connection as he started to come out of the room, and taking on flesh and bones was a process. So it's not just this quick thing. We're going through the door and he's taking on flesh and bones. So slowly I could see the part, that was coming. I could see him turning into flesh and bones. When I brought him completely out of the room, I could see, because I was looking at his hands mostly the whole time, and I could see that he was taking on his body. And then I went to look at the man, right? I went to look and to see, like, now, what does this man look like? What are his characteristics? I was excited to see that. But then I woke up, right? It's like right at the good part. Anyways, I woke up, so I did not see the characteristics of this man. And I would say this is the first time I've really ever dreamt of a spirit this way. And I guess it would be, I kind of thought this would be a spirit in its purest form. Okay, so what I think is maybe right after God formed the spirit, or maybe this is what the spirit looked like in the preexistence, or right after God formed the spirit. I just think it had to be either before the preexistence or in the preexistence, because he didn't have flesh and bones yet. Okay, so I feel like this spirit has not yet come to earth. Why do I think that this spirit is an angel who has not yet come to the earth? Because on the church's website, I looked up angels, which I did include in my angel episode. It says, there are two kinds of beings in heaven. Sorry, it's so dark in here, the sun went down. There are two kinds of beings in heaven who are called angels. Those who are spirits and those who have bodies of flesh and bone. Angels who are spirits have not yet obtained a body of flesh and bone. Or they are spirits who have once had a mortal body and are awaiting resurrection, which are spirits like our ancestors or someone who has died before us, right? But angels who are spirits have not yet obtained a body and flesh and bone. And I have to say that that's what I dreamt about, is this spirit, right? It did not have yet a body of flesh and bones until I was bringing it through the doorway. Angels who have bodies of flesh and bone have either been resurrected from the dead or translated. So that's also on our church's website. So when I was in the house and I was in the rooms with the mirrors and I was my present self, my future self was there. And in some of the mirrors, my past self was there. My future and my past self combined to make me in the present, right? There's a whole story behind this whole dream, but you'll have to read it in my book when it comes out. The spirit must be a spirit that has not yet come to earth, because the spirit had not as of yet had a body of flesh and bones until I brought it through the door. And it must be a spirit that I know and have a personal relationship with. He knew me and he wanted to take my hands. He knew that I was the only one that could help him through the door. So I hope me sharing this dream helps people understand spirits and the preexistence a little bit clearer. I think that's the most important thing that God might want you to get out of this, is there is a preexistence. There are spirits. And when they are born, they take on bodies of flesh and bone, and we get to live on this wonderful earth to gain experience, to get our bodies of flesh and bone so we can be a resurrected being. We cannot be a resurrected being unless we take on flesh and bone, right? That is very important. There's so much to go in, and there's so many things I would love to talk about, but I have a job. I'm trying to get ready to move and things like that, but hopefully at the beginning of the year, I'll have a lot of things organized. I've been trying to organize things for my podcast and everything else. So hopefully I'll be really organized next year. And I hope that you understand a little bit more about spirits today, and that we do have a present life, a past life, and a future life, that if we get close to God, He will show us great and marvelous things. I'm so blessed to be able to see the things that God has shown me, especially as I write this story, these books that I've been writing. I just feel so grateful to my Heavenly Father for trusting me with the information that He gives me, these dreams that He gives me. And I pray that everybody will learn that you can tap in to your spirit from the preexistence. Just keep on a path towards God, and He will show you great things. What a wonderful God He is. Bye, everybody.